everybody, it's Savannah Taylor, the Gardenista, your kitchen garden coach. Welcome back to the channel. So today, I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, this ain't gonna be a glamorous day in the garden, okay? Today, I'm going to show you all how I make my compost tea. Now, if you missed any parts of the other video where I showed you some other do-it-yourself fertilizers that you can make at home, I used banana peel water, I used crushed up eggshells and rice water. Well, I also mentioned a fourth fertilizer that I use, and it's my compost tea. Now, the compost tea is, you do need a composter, okay? But I love compost tea because I've said many times, I know I have a bag of fertilizer around here somewhere, but you know what? My compost tea and those other fertilizers that I mentioned work so well that I haven't used it. Now, if you guys want to use fertilizer, by all means, this is not an anti off the shelf fertilizer channel, but you know, I just believe in using what you got. Okay. And very inexpensive. It's zero waste. I mean, I'm using kitchen scraps, and I'll show you how I start the whole process. But just to start off, what I have here is I have two buckets. I have one bucket which has just some water. I poured the hose into it. These are just the cooler buckets, and I poured water into it. Now, it's important that once you fill your bucket with water, you want to wait a day or two with it uncovered so that the chlorine can burn off. All right. You don't want to take your nice, rich compost with all its live cultures and then kill them all off in the chlorine. Okay. So you want to give your water a day or two uncovered to evaporate off the chlorine. And just I always throw in here, be careful with your standing water, especially with summer coming. No more than a couple days, just to be on the safe side, and then cover it back up just to for mosquitoes. You don't want to have mosquitoes coming out of it. Now, in this other bucket, as you saw, it had a little bit of compost tea left in it, but I'm going to add more of this water to it, and then I'll add my compost, and I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's add some compost. Now, this is my Jora composter. I love this composter. I do have some composters in my Amazon store if you want to check them out. Now, I will say this is the Cadillac of composters, and this is a bit of a luxury because it was a treat. Okay, it was a gift from my husband. But I love this composter because, as you can see, and let me lock it up, you have to turn your compost at least once a week, every other week, because you want to get that aeration. But you see how easy it is. I can just turn it just like that. Okay. And I turn it a couple times. Okay. Now, if you do not have a composter, you can definitely go old school with a trash can, a round trash can. Just make sure you got to turn it, okay, and make sure you put holes in it so that it doesn't get soupy. That water has to drain out. You want to, wet it, keep it wet, and then that water has to drain out. Otherwise, it can get what they call anaerobic, and that's not compost, that's something else. Okay. All right, so anyway, here it is. Now, I have two chambers here, and the luxury of having two chambers is that over here I'm starting new compost. I'm going to pour my kitchen scraps into this side, and then on this side I've already got compost that I've been using. It's already broken down, as you can see in this footage right here. That's what I'm going to add to make my compost tea. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open this chamber. Now, I am not going to bring the camera over here and let y'all see what's in here because, like I said, this is not a glamorous day in the garden, but here is my kitchen counter compost can. If you've seen my other videos, all my kitchen scraps are in here, and this is what you do. Okay. All right. So that's making new compost, and then I'll just wash this can out before I take it into the kitchen. And again, I love this kitchen counter composter because there is a charcoal filter at the top so that it doesn't, whatever you put in there as it's sitting and waiting for you to fill it up, it won't stink up your kitchen. Okay. But I will rinse that out and take it back in. And then on this side, I have my rich compost, which I'm going to take my container here, my little hand tool, and I'm not going to get a lot. All you need is a clump, like what I showed you there in that video. Just making sure I get a nice big clump, all right? Maybe 2, because it's springtime, okay? And that's all some nice, beautiful, rich compost. And close this back up. Now I want you guys to notice something. First of all, it's springtime. Second of all, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's some flying friends around me. But you know what? I'm not bothered because I got my eucalyptus oil on. I'm telling y'all, that stuff is the absolute truth. The doTERRA essential oil eucalyptus. I am out here near by the composter shooting a whole video. Stuff is, I see it, some, little stuff flying around, but I am comfortable. Okay. Check it out. I'll put a link down below. But anyway, okay. So I'm going to take this compost here. I'm going to put it in there. Okay. And then I'm going to take my handy dandy paint stick and stir. All right. And that's it, you guys. We just made compost tea. This is it. Like I said, not very glamorous, but honey, let me tell you, this water right here is going to make my garden pop. My melons and my squash, and I can't tell you, I have grown so much stuff. This compost tea will set your garden off because you're putting back into it what it already naturally has. And you'll also find that with compost tea, it also acts as a natural pest control for your plants. It's almost like, I've said it before, it's like breast milk for your plants because it makes them strong enough to ward off a lot of diseases, a lot of pests, and they're healthier, they're stronger. So that's another reason why I don't really have to use I don't use any pesticides. I may, use some here and there. And we'll talk more about that if you have a really bad infestation problem. And there are some times during the year where infestations and stuff can get really out of control, but that's another video. But for the most part, honey, this compost tea is a miracle elixir. I am telling you the truth. Okay. So now that I've got that all well mixed, what I do is I will then take this and I will dip this back in there and I will go and water my strawberries are very heavy feeders. So with those, I will definitely use my compost tea each time I water my strawberries. Now, what you do want to be careful of, and this is how you know compost tea is a great fertilizer. If you use too much fertilizer, your plants are not going to fruit. You'll get a whole bunch of big, beautiful leaves. And I learned this early on as a gardener. I was trying to grow some yellow squash and some other things. And man, my leaves were beautiful and lush and green. I was like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. And honey, the summer came and went. The spring, summer came and went. I didn't get nothing but big, beautiful leaves. And that's because I over fertilize. So you want to be careful, even with compost tea. You don't want to over fertilize your garden. Indoor plants, fine, because that's what you want. You want big, beautiful, lush green leaves. But with this, I do this at the time of planting. All right. I do it when I start to see them fruit. Okay. And that's really it. And even still, I might even water it down a little bit depending on what it is and, the season and whatnot. So you still want to be careful with the compost tea. But now strawberries, like I say, they're going to get fed every single time. They are greedy, you guys. Okay, so they get compost tea every time. And so then what I'm going to do is, since I have a little bit of water in here, but I'm going to go ahead and fill it up because I want to keep this continuously going. And even though what I might also do is just pour it into another, because I don't want to waste this unchlorinated water. Because again, if I add hose water to it, I'm going to have to let it sit another day or two to burn off that chlorine. Okay. But that's pretty much it, you guys. That is how you make Compost Tea. And if you have any questions, you know there are no dumb questions. Please put them down in the comment section. I love to hear from you. If you have not shopped yet for your supplies, it's still time, you guys. It's still early spring, so there's still time to get your supplies, get your pots, get your soil. And you know what? It's always a good time because guess what's coming up? We still have a summer garden with melons, and then we've got a fall garden. We'll get to that later. Okay. But until then, remember, this is why kitchen gardens matter. And I will see you all again next time when we grow something else. All right. Bye.